show is live, global, and also on demand. So today's topic, and we welcome today's host, which will be Dr. Hernandez on the topic, how can Latinas identify with being a leader and executive? Thank you for being on the program, Dr. Hernandez.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Armando.
Please, you have my full attention at the question of how can Latinas identify with being a leader and executive?
Well, I think in order to, begin this particular conversation, I think we need to start with what does it mean to identify yourself as a leader? And probably, the best way for me to share the experience that I've been through is that I certainly grew up with the image and the identity as a daughter. My mother was very influential in my life and made me think about my future as a wife and certainly as a sister to my brothers and cousin to all my cousins. But I don't think because of her experience or her generation that she could ever talk to me as much about being a leader. And I think that was such a divide in our generations, right? So that came to me much later in my career, much later when I was beginning to understand kind of the roles in which professionals might navigate, whether it's academia or the corporate world or the public sector. We have to start with this idea that I too can be the president of the company. I can be the governor. I can be a senator. I can be the executive director. I can be president. And that doesn't happen unless we allow ourselves to see our, future lives taking on those responsibilities. So that's the first part of this journey is can you see yourself being in that role?
How does one begin to see self? You look at yourself in the mirror and you're looking into your own eyes and you say, I see myself as the leader. How does one begin this process?
I think it's a very deliberate act. And it's also, to some degree, that old saying, fake it till you make it. Being able to carry yourself in a way that says, I may not be in charge right now. I may not have that title yet, but I'm going to carry myself. I'm going to behave as I see leaders in my organization behave and really distinguish myself that way from others who may not have that kind of vision of their own lives. When I was in graduate school, there was something that our professors did right around the time that you were going to start defending your thesis, your dissertation, and they would start calling you Dr. Hernandez. And, first I thought it was kind of a joke or teasing you, kind of a well-natured sort of, you're going to make it, you're going to be successful. And then as I thought about it, I thought they were actually helping us prepare for this new identity of ourselves and that we could do it, that we would actually finish and become, professors in that particular realm. And so when you heard that, Dr. Hernandez for the first time, I mean, wow, that was a really big shift in your identity from being a student to being, a graduate, and certainly then taking on, a role as a professor, as assistant professor. So I think it starts with a deliberate statement to yourself. When you get up in the morning, you may not think about it so much, but who am I and what am I trying to accomplish? And do I see myself in those roles? So it starts with a lot of specific visualization of your own life, your own identity, and behaving as you would expect those individuals would behave.
Now, I understand that this series is dedicated to the idea of this deliberate structure learning process of becoming a leader. Tell us more about that.
Well, when we came up with my colleagues, Catalina Marrero and Julia Arellano Sullivan, when we came up with VIDA, which stands for Visibility, Identity, Determination, and Action, we felt we needed to share the narrative of Latina success. We looked at our peers years, we looked at other women that we have been blessed to work with, and we said, what makes them so different? What made it possible for them to achieve that kind of success? And these characteristics came out. But the second part of it was we also had worked inside corporate America, and I think that all of us said, we just don't see enough Latinas at the table. And let me give you an example of that. So we're all, you and I are both very much in the media environment. We see a lot of different kinds of television programs. And let me just share with you that there are 6 companies in the United States today that control 90% of the media that you and I get through TV, web, or radio. So the 6 companies are General Electric. So if you didn't know it, they own Comcast, they own NBC, they own Universal Pictures, and Focus Features, a filmmaking company. The next one is News Corp. The next is Disney. The next is Viacom. The next is Time Warner, and the last is CBS. Now, those are the 6 companies that have responsibility for a myriad of different outlets, newspaper, TV, movies, even on the web, right? And I dare you to look at their entire C-suite, and I dare you to find 1 or 2 Latinas that are there. And so when I watch TV, when I look at movies, when I look at what's on television, it certainly has made a tremendous movement forward. But you don't see a lot of Latino-based themes or issues being covered in the broad ways that we know they exist. And so I think the other part of this journey is, do you want a seat at the table? Tienes ganas to be, la mandona? Do you want to be able to direct what is happening in those particular companies, doing the work that executives do to produce quality content that's relevant for us as well? So that's the other side of this, is can you see yourself having a seat at the table, and what an advantage that would be to your career and to our community and to the, in essence, to the future of our country if we're part of this amazing, so much of what we experience.
Wow. But what are some of the factors that get in the way of Latinas seeing themselves and identifying themselves as they see in your executive?
Yeah, well, I particularly chose those media examples, Armando, because I think, first of all, there continues to be so many stereotypes about Latinas. And, I encourage you to, in Google, do an image search for Latinas and just look at what comes back. There are pictures of, voluptuous Latinas who are very well endowed. There are few pictures of, say, Jennifer Lopez and some of the other artists that exist who are Latina, but you don't see the scientists, you don't see the people who are serving in government. We're not being featured in the algorithm, if you will, of how Google has amassed images around Latinas. It's pretty interesting, and if you want to see that, I've actually written about that on LinkedIn. The other is, I think that in our cultura, as I said, I started off with a very traditional set of parents, immigrants to this country, and the idea of being a mom, being a good daughter, being a good wife, all of those are really front and center. And I think that that's changing rapidly, but those are some images that are very difficult to shake. And then there's also, this continued imbalance of who runs the household. I think women across all ethnic groups continue to be the primary caretaker. And when you have that much responsibility in your home, it can be very difficult to see yourself taking on yet another kind of major responsibility in your life. So I think we have certainly made a tremendous amount of progress in reducing those stereotypes. But, I challenge everyone, when you think about a leader, when that word comes up in your mind, who are the people that you see? Do you see your mom? Do you see your tia who's done something in your community with, tremendous success? Do you see other Latino women? And if you do, that's terrific and that's beautiful. That's not how I grew up. I certainly did not have that image when I was growing up about who could lead an organization. And so those inner voices about, do I see myself that way? They're very hard to shake. So I think that that's a factor. And I think we're making progress, Armando, but todavía mucho que hacer. We still have so much to do.
Let me highlight just for a second that my aunt, still alive in Querétaro, Altagracia, she set up shops and workshops for women to become executives for Pemex. So, my background is I have a model with the family.
Yes.
And the story she tells me is just overwhelming. And it seems like it goes back to what you're saying, the sense of you see yourself doing it and taking action. That's just seeing it. You're actually purposely looking at visualizing and then taking steps. Is this where we're going with the story?
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And yes, I think that there are these wonderful examples, pioneering women who have done these extraordinary programs, or they've mentored young women to do what you're talking about. So let's talk about the first step. That first step is, of course, creating that vision of yourself as a leader and defining success for yourself in whatever way that may mean for your career. So maybe you want to be a leader in the public sector or the nonprofit sector. I think that's the first step. Can you see yourself that way? The next is to surround yourself with people who really can hold that vision alive for you. People who say, you can do it, si se puede, or they encourage you by their, constant communication. How are you doing in that goal? How are you preparing yourself for that next step? And that can be someone that's in your family. It can be a mentor. It can be someone at work that you admire. We often say you need a personal board of advisors that is going to support your mission for you in your career. And so I think that's the other part of it. And the next part is, create the right opportunities for success. So if you know that you need to develop your public speaking skills, then sign up for a class to do that or take a workshop. If you know you need to have some, financial knowledge in terms of budget management, that is something that you can take online maybe. You don't have to, stretch yourself too hard to go find those resources, but the issue is find them, right? Get in front of people that are going to give you that kind of knowledge. So,
right.
Those small steps can be a huge impact in bringing you closer and closer to your vision of yourself as a leader.
Great. So how should women listening to this program begin their journey?
Well, I would love for people to come visit our website. We have a free white paper that's available on our website. If you just tell us your name and an email so we can keep in touch with you. And it's actually about creating your personal board of advisors. And we've got a lot of information in there about developing your skills through mentorship, through sponsors, through additional experiences that we might provide to you. We have a workshop called Rise to the Top. We're taking that across the country, and so you'll be notified when we're in your community. I think the other part is to find your own guidance post. If you feel that you're on the right path right now to be an executive in your company, find out from your immediate supervisor, for example, where do you see me in this company a few years from now? Start asking people for guidance about the things that you can immediately do to should be getting that when you get a job review or performance review. But if that's not happening, ask the question, do you see me being in a leadership role? Find out what's missing, what else you might be needing to do. And I think the other, as I said earlier, is really surround yourself with people who will mentor you and coach you to be able to make the right career moves and aim for the C-suite in your organization. Right?
Outstanding. I love that concept of personal board advisors. That's so critical, and I can see where this program is part of that. Whole idea of structuring. Even if we don't know the individuals, just listening to information like this one as well in Latina Vida series. Could you please highlight for us where that website is, please?
Yes. So everyone, please come to LatinaVIDA.org. And the other option for you is to join our Facebook group. Look in Facebook for Latina Vida, and you can request access there, and we'd be delighted to share information that we post through our Facebook group and our Facebook page as well. We have a blog that's called Latina Cubicle Confidential, and you can also find that on Facebook, and I certainly have shared that throughout a variety of magazines on the web. So we're trying to get the information out there to share in a multitude of formats and mediums. But I think, number one is connect with people through our Facebook group so that you can start networking online with people who can support your vision of success. So again, that's LatinaVida.org, and you can look for us on Facebook. We have a page, and we have also a group that you can join.
Well, obviously, this particular series that you are creating and developing that we're producing today is the idea of already creating that personal board advisors, and your programs and your information is actually already part of that idea where you're supporting that vision for others out there to create it. So you've mentioned a little bit about going around different parts of the country to do some of these seminars.
Yes, we just did one in Los Angeles, and I'm trying to create our sponsorships so that we can take this next to Philadelphia. As soon as we have that confirmed, we'll post it out to our Facebook community. So this is what, it's like juggling being an executive of a different kind of company and also working inside Latina Vida as a nonprofit. It's a big juggling act. But, again, I think the most important thing is build your strengths. Go to your strengths and learn what you know how to do best. And one of the things I know how to do best, Armando, is talk about what I'm passionate about, and I'm really good at organizing things. That's how it has manifested for me in my career and how I've made it to be the person that I am.
Well, I want to thank you because not only do you have a vision of yourself as a leader, but you also have a vision where you share others to also follow in your footsteps. So, and you're sharing this information globally, so that's really awesome. As we're ready to close the show, please, two things. Could you give us your closing statement? And once again, please, the website for our listeners.
Sure. My closing statement is, I hope anyone listening to this who's ever thought of themselves as being a leader in your industry, that you write down a few words to encourage yourself and read those words back each day. It starts with very small steps like that. And the next is take action. Do something with this idea of you being a leader. Learn more. Go with your strengths. Look at what you're really good at and leverage that to your advantage. I hope you'll find material at LatinaVida.org inspiring and helpful in your journey, and reach out. We have a Twitter page or a Twitter handle. It's LatinaVida360. So you can tweet to that and ask questions. I try to answer everything that comes to us and personally reach out to people. So again, LatinaVida.org, and you can find me on Twitter at LatinaVida360. And I hope to hear from you.
Absolutely. Thank you to Dr. Maria G Hernandez, Ph.D., and she is supporting the whole concept of women executives. So this is part of a series of programs that is available on demand on a global basis, free of charge. Please take advantage of this outstanding information. Sign up and be able to get updates when that seminar is going to be in your neighborhood. And if you don't see that list, take the leadership role, write her a letter, says, please bring it to our neighborhood as well. We might as well start carrying the wonderful the initiative, become a leader in your community, and bring these seminars over to your community. Dr. Hernandez, thank you very much for being on the show, and we look forward to your next program, which continues the discussion of how to help Latinas to identify themselves as leaders, executives, and related subjects. Thank you for being on the program.
Thank you so much, Armando. It's been a pleasure.
Adios. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, visit their website, LatinaVIDA.org, and enjoy the information and learning from the process. No one has to reinvent the wheel. Thank you, and adios.